Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're coming from the first video, welcome. If you haven't seen the first video about answering questions in general, because this one is very specific to med students and health science students. On the day I wrote physio, I didn't have the time to vlog, but I thought it would be great to keep my question paper or write down the questions I was asked and the ones I answered and share with you guys how I answered them. So this is renal physio. Before you say renal physio has nothing to do with you, this will just kind of give you an idea of how to answer any other physio really, because physio people, they're the ones that want essays. The first one was endocrine functions of the kidney. So simple, right? It sounds like you could just list some hormones and go. Absolutely not. Question number 2 was formation of urine. Also very easy. The third question was formation of concentrated urine, because those are two different things. Fantastic. Fourth question was discuss the countercurrent system, which I did not attempt. I don't like that at all. The next question, types of nephrons, their parts, difference between medullary and cortical nephrons. That's question number 4. I answered that one. Question number 5, effect of ADH on extracellular fluid osmolarity. And the last question was discuss the countercurrent system. No sir, I don't like countercurrent system. From my previous video, if you haven't seen that, make sure you can check them out. The first thing I did, I could answer all of these questions, don't get me wrong, but the first thing I did, like I said in that video, I wrote down all the headings for each question and I picked my strengths. Based on the headings that I quickly wrote and outlined, I realized that I didn't have a lot to say on the countercurrent system. And oh, there's another question. I'm mixing this shit up. The last question was acidosis in the kidney. I don't even care. I knew I wasn't going to answer that because after writing down all the headings, like I said, I realized that countercurrent was the weakest, acidosis was the weakest. I'm not saying if it came to attempt all, I would have written on all of them, but I weighed my strengths and I wanted to play on my strengths. Now, how did I answer question 1? Endocrine functions of the kidney. People might see this question and think that's such an easy question. Just write some hormones and you're good. No, please don't ever think like that. The first thing we're going to do is introduce the kidneys, because they're asking you the function of the kidney. You have to introduce what the kidney is. So introduction, discuss the kidney a little bit, urine forming organs. If you have time, you can go into the gross of it. I don't think it's necessary. In the same intro, you're going to write that the kidney, not only forming urine, has some endocrine functions. Full stop. You're moving on to the next one. The next headline, endocrine functions of the kidneys, which is what they have asked you. The hormones associated with the kidneys can be divided into 4. 1, and you list hormones synthesized, produced, or activated by the kidneys. We're talking erythropoietin, we're talking thrombopoietin, talking urodilating. You're just listing, you're not explaining, mind you, you're just listing. The next one, B, hormones metabolized by the kidneys. We're talking insulin, we're talking gastrin. I'm missing somebody here. Then we're talking hormones that act on the kidney. We're talking parathyroid hormone, you're talking ADH, you're talking aldosterone, and whatever. So we have 3 beautiful headings. You have listed it. You can see you're padding your book, you're organizing your book, you're padding it. Then under each of these 3 subtopics you have written now, we are going to talk about them individually. When I start, A, hormones that are synthesized by the kidney. I'm going to start each of these hormones now. It's a lot. You check your time. I think out of the 5, I only talked about 4. But each of these 4, you're going to introduce the hormone. We're going to talk about where it's produced or found in the kidneys. Talking about renin, you know that renin is produced in the juxtaglomerular cells of the afferent arteriole or something like that. You must talk about where it's found in the kidney. Second thing you must say is what activates it. You must also say what inhibits it. And lastly, you must state its function. That's what you're going to do for each hormone. It sounds like a lot, but I know it's not. You're going to do the same thing for the next one. Under hormones that are cleared or metabolized by the kidneys. Gastrin, you say the same thing. Insulin, you say the same thing. Parathyroid, you say the same thing. I remember this question in like the last minute. I started drawing like vitamin D conversion, like all that cholecalciferol to this, to that, skin, liver, kidney, how the kidney now acts on it. Because I realized I didn't write as much as I wanted to. So I had to kind of do like a schematic representation at the end of that question. I'm trying not to make this video too long. So number 2, formation of urine. The first thing I'm going to do, and it's not even in my notes, I'm going to introduce urine. What is urine? What's it made of? Is there something waste, something made up of urea, da 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 da? I don't remember. I've written the exam. I don't know. But I'm going to introduce urine first. That's the most important thing. Moving on to urine formation. There are 3 processes involved in urine formation. You're going to list. Make sure you list first before you explain each one. What this does is that it just pads your script and makes it look like a lot. So after you list the 3, glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, and tubular secretion, then you cannot explain each of them individually. Now, for extra marks, I would have written filtration and reabsorption and excretion of certain substances. I know that glucose has a filtration rate of a filtration amount of 180, reabsorption of 180, and it's not excreted at all. I always go with glucose, I always go with creatinine, and I also go with bicarbonates. That's their filtration, excretion, reabsorption, whatever figures. It just gives me a little bit of mark. You have to talk about why the glomerular filtration is possible because of the filtration membrane, and then of course because of the physical forces. You have to talk about what makes up the membrane: endothelial cells, basement membrane, epithelial cells. Then you move to the forces, but you must mention this. I went an extra step to even discuss the filtration barrier, the endothelial cells. What's special about basement membrane? Glycoproteins that repel negative plasma, and of course epithelium of the Bowman's capsule. I think it contains podocytes, food-like processes. So I just went the extra mile to do all those little things because that's where I really knew I could write on. Tubular reabsorption and the other ones, I didn't know a lot to write on it, so I really focused on that GFR. You must talk about GFR itself. You must talk about the value of GFR. If you have the time, you can talk about substances used to measure and their properties. Like it must not be secreted by the tubules, it must not be synthesized, da, 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 da. All that stuff. You have to talk about it if you have the time. I drew a diagram on how urine is formed. I also drew a diagram on the pressures that are acting or opposing on urine formation and filtration and stuff like that. So talk about the net pressure if you have the time. On that GFR, still talk about the factors that are increasing or decreasing. It's actually not a lot because you write like 1 or 2 or 3 on each something, a little paragraph on each. You're just trying to fill up your book. On a question, I could do like 3 pages, 2, 3, 4 pages. Moving on to tubular reabsorption, you have to discuss what it means. You have to discuss mechanisms of transport. So we're not talking active, passive, the pumps, just anything that our notes are different. So I don't want to say exactly how it is in my notes. However, it is in your slides, in your notes, or what you have learned. I'm dwelling too much on this. Talk about specific stuff like sodium reabsorption and just like jump to tubular secretion and what parts of the kidneys are responsible for secreting what. Ammonia is secreted here, hydrogen is secreted here. Before you know it, you've written a ton and you move on to the next question. Now, the question on the nephron, this question I was ready for it because they asked me in my test the differences between the medullary and cortical nephrons, and I didn't get all of them. I wrote only 2, and I was so mad. I was ready. Now, they said types of nephrons, parts, and differences. You know that the most important thing about answering this question is that you must say what a nephron is, its parts, and the differences. Every other thing you're adding is marks, but it's Jara. Look at your time. You must get to the main point. The first thing I'm going to do, introduce the renal system, because where did the nephron come from? Came from the kidney. I have to talk about the renal system a bit, then I'll talk about the kidney. I think I drew a structure of the kidney in this question as well. Minor calyx, pyramids, everything. I drew that. Make sure you discuss the kidney, growth of the kidney if you have time. But you have to discuss renal system, you have to discuss kidney before you come to the nephron, because the nephron is coming from, nephron did not appear on its own. We now come to the nephron, the functional unit of the kidney, discuss what that's basically all it is. But where you're going to have marks for that nephron is that you're going to actually draw a nephron. A nephron looks so intimidating to draw, but I promise you it's the easiest thing to draw. Once you know, like, it's actually really easy once you get the hang of it. So you draw the nephron, obviously, and then you now talk about the parts. Now you have the tubules and the renal corpuscle or whatever, all the ascending, descending capsule, distal, proximal, just mention it. Then, of course, we come to the differentiation between the medullary and the cortical. Use Google for this because Google has plenty examples about the ones that have larger arterioles, the ones that have more capillary. I don't remember, but I had a tabular differentiation and I wrote I think 5 things. The ones that are larger, the ones that have more glomeruli. Just make sure you use the internet for this one because they had more examples than my notes. But my notes didn't even, that's the funny thing. The note did not even say anything about that. Like all you know is that one is found in the cortex, one is found in the medulla. But it didn't have anything more than that. And before you know it, I was done with that question. It's getting so dark because it actually wants to rain. So let's round this up. Like I'm tired. So as I was saying, I got a call. As I was saying, I don't actually write all these things in one go. I share my time. The extra 10 minutes I told you guys that you give yourself when you share your time, that's when you come back and draw the diagram because the diagram is usually the ending of this type of question. So I leave a little time, make sure I finish what I have to do before I start drawing the end diagrams in these questions. Now, the last question I answered was effects of ADH on osmolarity, extracellular fluid osmolarity. And as I saw this question, I knew because I love ADH so much. It's really easy to talk about. And make sure you're not writing ADH for your lecturer. Every time you want to write ADH, make sure you write antidiuretic hormone. Never ever write ADH for them. It's disrespectful. We know that ADH has two functions. We know that one has to do with ECF volume and osmolarity and blood volume, and then the other one is blood pressure in the renal and the intestine system. We're going to talk about two of them obviously, but because of the nature of the question, we're going to focus more on the water retention part and its effect on ECF part. Depends on how much time you have. If you don't have a lot of time, don't even bother with renin angiotensin because that's not what they're asking you in this particular question. We're talking about ECF, we're talking about volume, we're talking about water. The first thing we're going to do is discuss osmolarity. What is osmolarity? Measure of concentration of in a solute. I don't know. But you must discuss osmolarity. Discuss the three mechanisms of osmolarity: ECF, osmolarity control. Also, never write ECF for them like that. Make sure you're writing extracellular fluid. So you're going to discuss that. I think the first one is thirst. The second one is renin angiotensin, and then ADH, hypothalamus pituitary. So we're not focusing on thirst at all. We're focusing on ADH, hypothalamus pituitary, and we're focusing on renin angiotensin system in this question. The next one, we're going to introduce ADH. What is ADH? What does it do? Where is it formed? You know where it's formed and where it's secreted. Two different things. Make sure you mention hypothalamus pituitary relationship and stuff like that. Now, these are two subheadings: increase of ECF osmolarity, decrease of ECF osmolarity, and its effect on ADH. So we start increase of ECF osmolarity. We're talking about osmoreceptors, signals to pituitary, talking about what again? I don't know, and how it will not affect, how it will say affect, how it will not affect and cause like water retention in the distal tubules. It makes it more fenestrated. I'm not here to educate you. I'm here to tell you how to answer the question. What happens in decrease of ECF osmolarity? The exact same thing, but in reverse. So that's how you're going to write it. Now here I come in with a nice schematic representation of osmoreceptor going to the pituitary that will now go to the, affect. So make sure you have like you're just drawing exactly what you wrote, but that schematic representation is going to make your lecturer think like this babe or this guy has read this note, knows too much. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, that's important. We'll now talk about renin angiotensin. We'll talk about ADH as vasopressin, and just like I said, the RAAN system in general, how it affects ADH, aldosterone. Talk about all that angiotensin 2, lungs, liver, kidney. We're going to talk about all of that. I think I even drew a diagram here as well, a very huge schematic representation of this RAAN. If you don't have the time to, that's okay, because you have written on what they asked you and what the question is about. And of course, I ended this question with applied physiology. I think I wrote about inappropriate ADH secretion. I wrote about dehydration. I'm realizing I should have done a lot of studying before I came on here to talk about this, but I didn't think I was going to educate. I thought I was just going to tell you guys how I answered it. So I'm a little bit blotchy because I really don't care. It's been a month and I'm on holiday. So that's how I answered those 4 questions. I think we should do something fun where you guys can send in your questions on different courses in medicine that I have taken. and other health science courses, and I'll tell you guys how I would answer it if you want or if you like that. So this is how I personally answered it. When I saw that I got an 85, I was actually very disappointed because I thought I like I hit the nail on the head. I thought it was so great, but apparently not. So you see that even after writing everything you can possibly write and it's correct and drawing everything you can possibly draw, you might not even get the mark you were hoping to get. I was hoping for like a 90, 90 something, but I didn't even get that. So that's why you need to do the most. Because if you're doing the most, you're not even getting what you desired. What will not happen when you do the least? So to be on the safe side, just do as much as you can. And if you're here, you haven't seen the video I made before this on how to answer questions in general, not physiology, make sure you check that out and let me know what it does for you. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, don't forget to like, don't forget to leave a comment if you have any tips because I don't know it all. I have only one brain in one head. So if you have more advice, more tips for students in the comments, make sure you just drop a comment what has helped you and what has worked for you in school. Let me know what you guys think and good luck in that exam or that test that you're watching this video for. I genuinely wish you all the best. Bye.